This is the Rebel Call channel. Welcome to today's show. The presidential debate took place last night, and I sat through it so I could cover it for everybody out there who follows my channel. Now, the majority of you know that I don't believe in the left or right. In fact, I believe that that is the big trap that is keeping everybody gatekept, is believing that their vote still counts. Most people by now, after watching the way that the government has behaved for the last 10 years, should realize that they're not going to put the power in the hands of the people. They've been waiting a long time to control both parties fully, and they control both parties fully. But I also understand why so many people do turn to Donald Trump, because he says things that sound sane. And we're living in a time period where we literally have a political party who is so communist, so Marxist, that they come out on national television and they argue about men having babies. They argue about how old a child should be when they're allowed to get castrated. This is all insane asylum stuff. So it's very easy to get sucked into the Republican aspect of what's going on. But I could tell you with pure confidence, I could tell you with 100% certainty that our vote does not count. So when you see things like rigged trending online, like it is right now, realize that it's not rigged, it's not real. And as long as they can keep you stuck inside of this, inside of the left-right paradigm, it prevents any real revolution from actually occurring and civilians from taking their rights back. So one of the things that came out of the debate that I have to talk about is this blurred line that we're living in now, where literally you can fact check with lies and people out there actually believe it. The moderators, which everybody should expect, are so ridiculously bad. You would think that people who are Democrats would actually look at some of the stuff that these quote unquote fact checkers are saying and say, hey, wait a minute, they're making up the facts. Trump said this and now they're saying that, but wait, that was actually really true. Well, this is the new reality we live in, where if you don't agree with a certain political ideology, if you don't agree with somebody's religious beliefs, it doesn't matter if they're factually correct anymore. They don't care. And the moderators were literally fact-checking Trump during this charade of a performance, so much so that it became laughable because the things they were saying were nothing more than complete lies. Now, people like me and you know all about the fact-checking. We're very, very versed in it, right? Almost every single video I do ends up getting some type of Wikipedia thing underneath it. Obviously, if you post on other social media platforms, you get those fact check boxes. Even on Twitter, they're conditioning everybody out there into accepting these fact boxes, and they've already accepted them. But the reality is that everybody should believe the opposite of what these fact boxes say, because both sides are working together to deceive. So trending right now, you won't even believe what's actually trending, along with rigged, is the word they're eating the dogs. That's right. We had a debate for the next president of the United States of America. And in the past, if you've watched debates, they'd be awfully boring. They'd be talking about our taxes. They would be talking about immigration. They'd be talking about getting prices down so people could live better, the housing market. These are the topics that are usually discussed. And people out there would watch it. They probably would slip in and out of consciousness. They'd say, all right, I guess, I'll vote for this guy or this guy. I mean, one way or the other. Hopefully things get a little bit better. But no, this is what's trending in 2024. They're eating the dogs. And you might say, what in the world is that? Well, let me explain to you and show you. For starters, you can see all these Democrats out there are cracking up because Donald Trump started talking about how illegal immigrants Haitians specifically, are eating dogs and cats. Now, of course, they come out and they tell you that this is all conspiracy fodder, this is all crazy. Even ABC News during the debate, which I'll show you right now, fact-checked them and said that those things aren't true. But at the same time, it's the mainstream media who's reporting to us and telling us that a woman was arrested for allegedly killing a cat. We've seen some of these bizarre photos of men walking down the street carrying dead dogs. Now, these are the stories that they're giving us. I'm not saying that these are necessarily true, because these are stories that are getting fed to us. So we need to question every single thing in the news. But it's incredible that they could tell us that this is all make-believe, but they're the ones who are airing these stories. And that's how gaslighting works. But here's Donald Trump at a debate talking about people eating dogs and cats and coming for your pets.
So embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country. And it's a shame. As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country, and if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
The people
I'm
on
taking it from the city
saying
manager.
Their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme.
So it's incredible that we are listening to a presidential debate, and this is a topic that's going that people are eating one another's pets. They're coming up. Now, there's truth to this type of stuff in general. I've covered over the years, especially as we roll closer to Samhain, we roll closer to Halloween. There'll be a lot of people's pets that are getting eaten. Maybe they have a big psyop planned around it where they'll blame it on the Haitians, but we know that a lot of abductions occur around those specific holidays. They just don't get reported on. But when you look at this story, all you can do is scratch your head, right? Because they're the ones who are feeding us these types of stories. They're the ones putting it on CNN that women are eating their cats. In fact, we've even seen the body cam footage come out of Ohio where the woman was just eating somebody's cat in the middle of the street.
What did you do? Why'd you kill the cat? Smile for me. Smile with your teeth. Go like this. Did you eat that cat? Did you eat it? No, why'd you kill it? Did you guys see all this?
No, we pulled up and she was just laying there with him.
Did you see her eating it?
Eating it.
She was eating it?
Yeah, she was.
You call the Humane Society, see if they'll come pick this cat up. It's deceased.
So what is truth and what isn't? That's the point that I'm trying to make. There is no truth anymore because they're just blurring the lines so much on every single thing that nobody can figure out what's truth and what's not. One story comes out, they tell us the story, Trump brings up the story, then they tell us the story isn't real. That's the entire debate in a nutshell. Them constantly fact-checking Donald Trump, and everything they were fact-checking were lies. Now, I'm not saying this to support Donald Trump. I'm just saying it. Where in the world is truth anymore? Is anything true? And people out there who literally can hear out of their own mouths these people say these things are still agreeing that Trump is making up lies. They're saying Trump's making up lies, he's making up lies, right? But if you actually look at a fact check on some of the stuff he's saying, you say, well, this has already been proven that this has occurred. I mean, we saw body cam footage. You don't want to say that they're eating cats and dogs, that the story is something else. Well, CNN's the one who put the story out. ABC's the one who put the story out, right? Here's another thing that I need to cover, okay? Because Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, who are probably two of the biggest communists you'll ever find, who are 100% if they're put in power. This country is going to look a lot different in 4 years with the communist ideologies that they have planned. But one of the things they discussed was guns. And Trump talked about how they were coming for our guns. And of course, she laughed it off and said, well, I'm a gun owner. Tim Walz is a gun owner. We're not coming for your guns. We own guns. Listen.
Position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff.
So, of course, there was really no pushback on that, and there should be pushback on it, because what Kamala means is that they're not coming for everyone's guns. They're not just going to come and take people's guns. They're coming for the guns of people like me and you. They're going to come for the guns of people who vote for Donald Trump in this election, first and foremost. And, of course, unfortunately for people like me and you, we get washed in with Donald Trump because of the topics that we all discuss about conspiracy theory, which are all conspiracy fact at this point. Let's just call them what they are. Conspiracy theories are facts in today's world. All the stuff we talk about that's going on with weather manipulation, weather modification, to these false flag events. But isn't it interesting how this is how these people actually think? And this is how Democratic voters actually think. That Kamala Harris sits there and talks about, well, it's okay for her to own a gun, but it's not okay for other people to have a gun because she's very supportive of red flag laws. And red flag laws are whoever the government dictates and decides are bad people or people that can't be trusted with weapons, which means anybody who is anti-globalism and anti-communism, period. All they have to do is put some propaganda out there, and they've been doing it with these false flag events, right? They've been tying in the false flags. Well, the person was reading conspiracies online. The person had a manifesto that talked about conspiracy theories and globalism and a new world order. That's all these people need to hear. Then they think it's suddenly fair for, well, they can carry a gun, but you can't. You might look at it and say, well, I don't know. Maybe Democrats won't feel that way one day in the future. But these are the same people that feel like they're allowed to have free speech, and people like me and you aren't allowed to have free speech. So that's what it's headed towards. And that should have been a major debate about red flag laws because they're undefined. They're undefined. People hear red flag laws and they're like, oh yeah, well the kid he was on pills for mental health, or the dad or whoever in the household was a dangerous. Then they just go, oh yeah, I agree, we should have red flag laws. And the red flag laws are only specifically for people out there who aren't going to support communism. And pretty much anybody who goes and votes for Donald Trump will be put on a list. They'll be put on a list of people who will be investigated to have their firearms removed from their home. And the only reason I'm concerned about that, of course, because then we're going to have guns in the hands of all of these psychopaths who want to castrate your kids and do everything else unimaginable, and out of the hands, at least, of some people who are sane or just people who want to protect their home. Remember, conservatives, okay, believe in capitalism, which means private property. So even people out there who argue on my channel, they're like, I don't believe in capitalism. That's fine. You can believe whatever you want to believe as far as how you think the world would be a better place. But one thing's for sure, we need private property. I mean, you can watch the behavior of a 2-year-old and how they behave when it comes to taking a toy away from them or a doll away from them. You ever been around some of you might have your own kids. You ever been around other people's kids? And there's this own like, oh, well, that's mine. That's my doll. That's my toy. That's natural human instinct. Okay, private property is a necessary thing. It doesn't mean that we don't need to share and help other people. I try to help people as much as I possibly can, but I'm also not interested in somebody who, is walking around, who's already John Bobbited themselves, coming to my front door and sleeping on my couch, right? I'm not interested. But in communism, there is no private property. So if you remove firearms and you put red flag laws into place, all people like me and you who would then be unarmed would have to put up with these other people who believe that everything belongs to them because they believe in community and they believe in communism. They'll be armed. So they'll show up at your front door and dictate where they could live. And it might sound extreme, but it's not. That's what we're headed towards. If I told you this stuff 8 years ago about free speech, you would have said there's no way we're ever going to get to a point where free speech is the way it is now. And I talked about it when it happened, and I still, at this point right now, can't believe how fast the removal of free speech in America has gone. I can't believe that there's people out there that are okay with silencing other people who have opposite opinions than them and then just labeling it as hate speech or something else because it's too deep for them to actually think about. So the red flag law was a very big topic that wasn't discussed because Kamala Harris just passed it off and said, well, I have my own gun. Tim has his own gun. A lot of us Democrats have our own gun. Our security guards have guns. So they'll all be armed and the rest of us will be left defenseless, right? That's the communist takeover in a nutshell. The other topic is in regards to abortion, right? That's the big hot topic. It's amazing we're at a point where we're discussing the execution of a child as if it's somebody's right to do. But the big topic that was discussed was Donald Trump was talking about how Democrats want to support abortions at 9 months. At 9 months. And of course, the moderator chimed in and said there's no such thing as that. There's no such thing as aborting babies in America at 9 months.
No state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump. There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
And of course, naturally, your fact checkers who don't get fact checked themselves, who we're supposed to take at their word, of course, these are all communist puppets. Of course, that person couldn't be more wrong or a bigger liar because we have 6 states that do allow abortions in 9 months of term. Okay, we have states, specifically Tim Walz's state in Minnesota allows it to occur. We have Colorado, New Mexico, Oregon. These are states that it's allowed to occur in. And if you didn't hear what Trump was referencing, he was talking about some of these quote unquote radical Democrats, which, again, I don't stand on either side of the aisle of politics. I'm anti-communism, so that would make me anti-Democrat by design. But most of these people are literally insane. All the stuff they talk about is utter insanity, the stuff they're okay with that's going on in America right now. I mean, it's utter insanity. But to talk, that's one thing I will not tolerate, hearing about these people talking about a woman's body, a woman's right, after the baby is born, to terminate the baby. This is some of the stuff that has been discussed by Democrats in the past.
This is infanticide that we're talking about.
Republican Ben Sasse blasts Governor Ralph Northam of Virginia for supporting a bill in his state that would have allowed abortion up until and during birth.
We're talking about a little baby girl who's been born and is on a table in a hospital or a medical facility, and then a decision or a debate would be had about whether or not you could kill that little baby.
Sasse noted it's the biggest debate in the country over the last couple of days. But yesterday, Democrats claimed they hadn't heard Governor Northam's comments.
I'm sorry, I just don't know what he said yesterday.
Here's what Virginia's governor did say.
The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mothers.
Now, Senator Sasse is fast-tracking his bill to protect children who survive abortions.
Everyone in the Senate ought to be able to say unequivocally that killing that little baby is wrong. This doesn't take any political courage. And if you can't say that, if there's a member of this body that can't say that, there may be lots of work you can do in the world, but you shouldn't be here.
And pro-life groups will try to oust pro-abortion lawmakers, including in Virginia.
They overplayed their hand, they pulled back the curtain, and they showed Virginians and they showed the entire United States of America what the abortion lobby is really about.
Virginia's Republican majority leader says it's a warning.
They have now been exposed in what they believe and the things they embrace and the legislation they would clearly advance if they had the opportunity.
So you're talking about a full term, a baby making it to full term. And they're actually debating this like it's a woman's right still to take down, to execute a child at 9 months. Well, we'll talk to the physicians, maybe the child might have something wrong with it. Well, the child might have something wrong with him right after birth. If you get those potions stuck in his arm immediately or her arm immediately, yeah, then there's a chance that something could be wrong with them long term. Hence everything we see going on with kids having all of a sudden, it's like 1 in 4 kids are autistic. Every single child's pretty much born with an allergy. Nobody thinks about it, right? Because they give birth, and right after the birth, everybody's in a whirlwind, I'd assume, right? After you have a kid, I'd assume if you're in the room, you're just like, oh my goodness, I just had a baby. The wife is like, oh my goodness, thank goodness, everything's okay. The husband's like, I got a kid, I don't know what's going on. And what do they do within like an hour of you having the kid? Well, they run in and stick a needle in them, right? You don't even have time to think about it. I mean, there's been people on the website, mothers on the website, who have talked about this and how they've guilted them into vitamin K shots. And it's like, vitamin K, right? You really believe vitamin K is in any of these things? And then you look at all the rates of all these kids who are so sick. And of course, they know that if you can't directly correlate something, and you can't just say, well, went in the arm, and then the kid suddenly had a seizure, and the kid was on the ground, and the kid came out of the seizure, and the kid was autistic, then nobody will be able to connect the dots. And it'll all be, quote unquote, conspiracy theory. So those are some of the things from this debate. And it's not a debate, again. I mean, it's a circus. It's a circus, but it's incredible how we've gotten to, from all these debates and what used to be discussed to where we are now, right? We have moderators openly just lying, right? They're supposed to be neutral. They're not neutral. So this is stuff that gaslights conservatives. They get all angry about it. I look at it and I just say, it's incredible they can convince people based on who they vote for, what truth is and what isn't. And they can flat out lie, and those people don't care. They don't go, well, wait a minute. Even though I'm a Democrat, you should tell the truth. No, they're on board with it. They're fine with it. They're fine with making up the truth as we go and removing actual truth. And what we're seeing in our society is real truth has been removed. It's been taken away. You can't question the news. You can't question a false flag. You can't question what's happening at some of these schools. No, you're not allowed to question it. We don't give you a trial. We don't give you actual evidence. We tell you that this happened and you're supposed to believe it. There is no truth anymore. That's what we take out of this. And then again, They deliberately wanted this stuff out there. They're eating the dogs because it makes it a laughing stock. Everyone's laughing looking at this stuff. But meanwhile, who are the ones who reported these stories out there? ABC, CNN, telling us a woman was arrested for allegedly killing a cat. I showed you the body cam footage. They're the ones telling us this. It's not like we're walking around with camcorders. Those are police body cams. So they're the ones saying it. Doesn't mean it's necessarily true because we can't believe anything that's on the news. But if they're the ones showing us that there's Haitians walking the streets, holding dead dogs, eating cats, right? If it's coming from the news and then the news fact checks themselves and says, oh, we can't confirm that because we called somebody in the town and they said that there's no truth to that story. And you just go, oh, right? And that's really what it is. It's like a giant brain nuke. It's like the scene from Scanners where the guy's head explodes. Because it just go back and forth, what's real, what's not real. And nobody has to admit to even telling truth anymore. They can say what they want. And then you can look 5 minutes later and say, well, wait, this person's completely against it. Fracking's a perfect example, right? Kamala Harris has openly said, I will eliminate fracking 100%. Then on stage, I'm not going to eliminate fracking. I never said I would. And then you got the video proof right there, right? You said you're going to get rid of it. We know with the climate initiative here that all Democrats who are put into power are going to completely destroy the infrastructure. Because everybody out there who thinks that the climate agenda, and that's going to be the big thing that comes with censorship in the future. That's going to be the big thing. No one's talking about it now except me and maybe a few other people. I know I've been talking about it for years, the carbon footprint and how important it is to implement this before people realize what it is, and then giving everything up quietly to technology where they can control your thermostat, they can control your electricity, they control the locks on your house. People think it's a crazy conspiracy theory, but once everything's in place and free speech is removed, these people are going to go, wait a minute, what? And they're not going to even pay attention to it. But the Democrats are obviously hell-bent on this infrastructure. This is part of the AI governance and AI infrastructure is green energy. Because they're going to convince people that what they're doing is for the betterment of humanity, shutting off their electricity on Fridays, listening to what the government says, doing it for their fellow man. And it's all a scam. It's all a scam to imprison all civilians, to make you live like a prisoner. They want us all to live like prisoners. There are not enough jails around the earth right now to put every single civilian in there. But what there is there's enough of us to prevent this from happening. But they don't want you to realize that and actually realize that you have to prevent this from happening. You have to take action by not participating in this government anymore. They don't want you to realize that. That's why the left-right is such an important trap. And that's why they make it look so obvious, right? Democrats see this stuff and they're in a different planet. Conservatives see it and they're getting gaslit. So they're taking all the bait. They're like, oh, the moderators are liars. Yes, they are. They told us that they were eating cats. Yes, they did. And they just get angrier and angrier and angrier. And then they start trending what? Rigged. Remember, video long removed. Too big to rig. A big narrative here, which really shows us what's coming in the future, right? Too big to rig. They're telling you we got to make it too big to rig. And you know that it doesn't even matter what they say on the news, right? But they'll make up a story around it. They'll have it real close. Then some weird thing will happen again in one of the states where they say, wait, the votes weren't really there. The ballots weren't really there. And they'll gaslight these people into denying the election because that's the outcome that's coming. No one's going to believe it on either side. They're either going to believe Russia interfered to help the conservatives or, of course, all the stuff with illegals and hand ballots to help the Democrats. And that's to change the infrastructure. We're going to have a new infrastructure. Okay? Everything's going to be digital. They're pushing you towards it. Digital ID. These are all things they're going to make people want to have to prevent this, but they don't even realize that none of this is real in the first place. I thank everybody for being here. I hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.